Good morning. I'm New Center Maine's Don Carrigan here with this week's edition of Political Brew, filling in Pat Callahan, who's off this week, joined by Republican analyst Phil Harriman, Democratic analyst Betsy Sweet. Thank you for being with us, folks. Another big week. Let's talk about the White House. The Electoral College met and voted this week in all the states. Phil, does that mean the election is really, truly, finally over?
Well, I think most of our viewers are perhaps surprised to know that we are a representative republic, and it is electors in each individual state that actually elects the president. And as you said in your question, Dawn, that happened on Monday. So now we're in that transition period from the electors declaring that Joe Biden is our next president and the inauguration in January, and in between time, we'll get an opportunity to see what kind of Trump exit fanfare there may be in store for us.
Do you expect a little, perhaps?
Well, yeah, he's been flamboyant from the beginning. He walks to his own music. Yeah, I do. I expect there'll be some more before he's done.
Betsy, is it all over but the shouting, as the saying goes?
Well, truly, madly, deeply over. So that's good, right? But I think the thing I'm worried about is what's going to happen between now and January 20th. In addition to the pardons, we're seeing, more death penalty executions happening. We are seeing a lot of environmental degradation with the Arctic drilling. It seems like they're just trying to get as much as they can done that is going to be antithetical to the Biden program and the Biden agenda. So I'm very nervous about between now and January 20th, not about whether or not he's going to stay as president, but what he's going to do on his way out.
Even though some of that can be undone.
Yes, but once it's done, it's harder to undo it.
Right. Still, millions of people in the country who are not satisfied with all of this. I saw a sign on the beside the road the other day: the Biden coup, stolen election. Will the president-elect need to do something to try to reach out to the non-believers? I don't know if that's possible. Is it necessary?
I mean, I believe that it is going to be necessary, but I think the way to do it is by actually doing it. I don't think talk is going to do it. I think once they see Biden get in and actually bring some relief to the middle class, actually do something about healthcare, do the things that people actually care about in their lives and get away from the political rhetoric and the labels, but actually make a difference, get a COVID relief package in there that's going to actually help people in their day-to-day paying the mortgage and the rent and the food bill. I think that's what's going to make people settle down and be believers.
Bill, what's your take on that?
Well, I hope President Biden does do what Betsy's describing. He does need, through his action and his deeds, show that he wants to bring the country together. And to do that, he's going to have to take a lot of criticism from his own party, because they have clearly put him in office and have expectations that he's going to yank the country more to the left. And in order for him to get the people who are saying this election lacked integrity, he's going to have to demonstrate that he's going to come their way as well. And on top of that, Dawn, I really believe that the legislatures around the country should take a look at their election laws. Let's make sure that there's no question that the people who are legally eligible to vote, who choose to vote, actually get their ballot counted appropriately. And I think that would take a lot of the frustrations out of the conversations that we're seeing from people who supported President Trump.
Is it outside of the realm of possibility that there be some sort of amendment to the Constitution to create a little bit more uniformity in that process?
Well, I think that's exactly what it would take, is a constitutional amendment to make it a uniform. Right now, elections are run by each individual state basically as they see fit.
I think it's going to be hard to get the states. Any constitutional amendment is really hard. And I think, a lot of that, in all these lawsuits that Trump brought, there wasn't a single example of a fraud that actually existed. So I think that to continue the sort of narrative that the votes aren't secure, that they don't happen, is really just based on not reality. And so I think we got to move on to doing the things that matter in people's lives. And that's healthcare, that's wages. So, I think that's where it is. I don't think it's going to be about the rhetoric about stolen elections and that kind of stuff. People need to see it in their pocketbook and in their homes.
And as this election issue is appears to be winding down, we have this new crisis, or at least concern coming in, of the Russians, somebody having hacked into federal government computers. What does both the current Trump administration and the new Biden administration, what do they do about this, Betsy?
Well, they're first going to have to investigate and find out what the heck happened. And I think they're going to have to take some really strong action. You know, we've known about the Russian ability to get into our system since 2016 and even before that. And yet nothing has been done. Almost nothing has been done. So I'm hoping that the Biden administration, when they come in, is going to say enough of this, and whether it's going to take sanctions or whether just exposing what they're doing or actually putting resources, defense resources into that kind of defense of our country, I think is what's going to happen. Yeah.
Phil, how worried should we be?
No, I'm very troubled by this. We don't know what we don't know about the software vulnerability of our country, and it goes everywhere from our financial institutions to our electrical grid to other really essential parts of our daily lives. So I agree with Betsy. The Biden administration needs to make this their number one defense effort.
And before he leaves office, should President Trump do anything or even say anything about this?
Yeah. Was he going to? Has he said anything about Russia or Putin or anything yet? No. So I don't count on it.
Phil, quickly.
Yeah, I agree with Betsy. This is something we need to as a country. This isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an American issue.
Yeah. All right. Everybody in the country, it seems, or a lot of them, are waiting for the Congress finally pass some sort of new COVID relief package. They're apparently very close. Vote could be happening this weekend. Should we be encouraged by this, or should we just be unhappy that it's taken so long to get something done?
Well, I think both. It's unconscionable to me that it's taken so long and that we've gotten nothing since March. I mean, that's disgusting. And we're able to do it. When we needed to bail out the banks or the auto industry, we were able to do that really quickly. So when it's people, so I'm encouraged that they're going to do something. It is definitely not enough. It is definitely not something I think that's going to actually help enough, to say $600 since $1,200 in March, where people don't have food and can't pay their rent or unemployed. I'm happy they're doing something. I'm happy they're moving forward. But is it enough, and is it in the right direction? I don't think so.
Phil?
Yeah, I'm with Betsy on this one. I know of instances of businesses that were given payroll protection money the first time around that didn't actually need it. And now we're witnessing people who are struggling to pay their mortgages and rent and maintain a safe lifestyle. That's where the relief should go to individuals. And I do agree, Dawn, that whether it's today or early next week, they will pass something, because both Nancy Pelosi and McConnell have said we're not going home for Christmas until we get a package. That's why they'll do it.
Senators Collins and King have been in the middle of the negotiations since Thanksgiving to get a bipartisan package agreement on this. From what you're looking at from the outside, how critical has their involvement been?
Oh, I think they're both seen as approachable. They're not seen on either end of the spectrum, and that makes them a conduit for everyone to come to and work with. And I think you're going to find that where the dividing line is that one segment of the Congress wants to bail out states, and others want to make sure, as Betsy and I have been discussing, that the targeted relief gets to individuals. And hopefully that's where this will fall, that individuals take priority over institutions.
And Betsy, the progressives in Congress clearly want a lot more money put into this. How far do you think they're going to push President Biden to go? Well,
I think they're going to really start to have their voice heard, and they need to. I think that if you look at both the cabinet appointments, and there's all this work to get to and appease the people on the Republicans. He also has to speak to the real needs of people. And I don't think this divide is around progressives. I mean, look, Phil and I agree on this one. It's not really between progressives and conservatives or even Republicans and Democrats. It's really up and down. It's really looking at, do people get this? Do people get this? Or do institutions and corporations get this? And I think we got to start with people first.
The Maine legislature, their appropriations committee, just in the last couple of days, started its work to look at catching up the current budget, looking at a $400 million revenue shortfall projected for the next 2-year budget that has to be passed before the end of June. Is that the biggest challenge for those folks in Augusta going forward?
I think the budget shortfall and how much we're going to get in federal relief or not is huge because, you know, the budget is, and Phil will tell you this, it's counter-cyclical, right? When we have the most need for spending and the most need for relief and help, we have the least amount of money. And so we have to figure out how we are going to balance those needs because people are hurting. We've seen, in my view, 8 years of a lot of the service systems that have helped people be strangled and, you know, choked off from enough air and resources. So that there's a lot of unmet need. I know in the mental health world, there's a ton of unmet need, and yet we have very few resources. So it's going to be a really important time to set priorities and say what's really important and what do Maine people really need and care about.
Yeah. Phil, there's going to be a lot of pressure from one side to make cuts, from another side to find new money, right?
That's exactly right. That's one of the challenges. I see three challenges that this legislature has to address. First, the collegiality amongst themselves is going to be so important because, as Betsy has pointed out, there's so much pressure for the government to do more. Most emergency legislation, if you will, has to pass with a 2/3 vote, which means Republicans matter in these discussions, and it's going to be up to the leadership in the Democrat Party to bring them together. Second, I think the legislature is going to have a tough time rewriting the executive power that the governor has exercised during this pandemic. And third, the math does not add up in our Constitution. Thankfully, in the state of Maine says the budget has to be balanced. That's going to be a real challenge for them to meet.
Absolutely. All right. The best news, of course, of the week and is a big Christmas present for the country. The start of the rollout of the vaccine, another one just being approved. Phil, I'll start with you. Will you take the vaccine when it's available to you?
You know, I am uncertain at this point. I want to see the efficacy of these three different companies that have put out a vaccine. I'm thankfully in good health, and so I'm not in need of it because I've been infected. And I'm hearing that some airlines are saying that if you're going to fly on our planes, you must have the vaccination. In my work, I do travel a bit, so I may be forced to.
Okay. Betsy, what about you?
Yeah, you know, I think I'm going to wait to the next round, but I don't think I'm going to be eligible. I think we have to get the vaccination to frontline workers, and I know that that definition is very narrow right now. I represent a lot of folks who are in mental health residential care facilities who aren't currently considered frontline workers, but they're just as much frontline workers as nursing home folks and people in assisted living. So I think, you know, I think that the most important thing is that we don't become falsely confident that this is going to take care of the epidemic right away. You know, it's not. And so we have a lot of work to do. We are going to have to make sure that people continue to mask, still keep their distance, and wash their hands, even though we're all so tired of it.
Okay. Winners and losers of the week. Phil.
My loser of the week, Dawn, are the people responsible for the software breach of our national security. I think that is a bigger problem than we even realize. My winner of the week is the generosity of Maine people who are supporting nonprofits. I'm personally involved in the Make-A-Wish Maine, and we are just so touched by the support that we've received to be able to grant wishes to kids. We have 100 kids waiting for wishes to be granted, and thanks to the generosity of Maine people, we can start making that number a lot smaller.
That's great. Betsy.
So my losers of the week are the people who still are refusing to take public health precautions, wearing masks, washing their hands, keeping socially distanced when they go into stores, all of that. And my winners are the frontline workers. They're exhausted. They have been getting us through this pandemic since March, and this uptick in cases is really hard on them, and they hang in there at great risk to themselves and their families, especially during this holiday time. So they are my winners.
All right. Thank you both very much. If I don't talk to you before then, Merry Christmas to both of you, as well as to all of our loyal Sunday morning watchers. News Center Maine will be back after this.